Our next guest has been described as a total genius by none other than the legendary Rolling Stone Keith Richards. I'm Penny Lane and welcome to In the Driver's Seat. Robert Fraboni's list of credits as a music engineer and record producer makes him one of the most influential recording engineers in rock and roll history. Having worked with Bob Dylan, the Beach Boys, the Rolling Stones, Etta James, Eric Clapton, just to name a few. Besides producing some of the most iconic music in the past 50 years, he's also an inventor and a revolutionary music pioneer. Robert Fraboni, welcome to the show.
Hi, so nobody calls me Robert, by the way.
Okay, Rob, my friend. Not even when you're in trouble. Now, Keith Richards calls you a total pain in the arse with love. And are you?
Well, yeah, of course. You know, I mean, he also, his other nickname for me is Mr. Overbearing, you know, so I'm a bit intense, you know. I mean, I'm just one of those people that gets, you know, I have curiosity, kind of like, well, I'd like to put myself in the same category as Leonardo da Vinci, but I mean, you know what I'm saying? I'm a very curious person. And so I've always really drilled down deep into things, and
you're a perfectionist too. Yeah, that's why you have become so good, I reckon. So how did you get into the music industry, Rob?
Well, boy, that goes way back. I'm from an Italian family, and so there used to be a dinner like once a month with about 20 people, and afterwards they would go to the garage and play music. And you know, I was Italian, so of course there was an accordion and
there's got to be,
you know, guitar, bass, and drums, and you know, that kind of thing. And anyway, so that I loved those. You know, I was 4 or 5 years old, you know, initially when that was happening, and I became kind of fascinated with the drums, and so I ended up getting drums when I was 12 years old, and that's how it kind of started. And then I was learning electronics at the same time. A friend of mine's father worked at an aerospace plant, and on Friday nights he would teach us on the blackboard in his garage. He would give us electronics lessons, right? So
yeah,
I was going down that road. And then, not to go on and on, but I had an injury and I cut my left hand extremely bad. You know, I cut my tendons and nerves, and it was really, you know, it took about a year to recuperate from it. And so basically during that time, I started recording my friends' bands, you know, just because I was learning how to do that. I was recording my band a little bit before that. And anyway, I never went back. I mean, I ended up staying with that, and yeah, that's pretty much what led me to where I am.
Did you have any aspirations of becoming a rock and roll artist yourself?
Not really. I mean, we had a band, and you know, and I played drums in it, and you know, sang background vocals and stuff like that. But I mean, but no, other than that, of course, you know, that was the ages of 13, 14, and 15. So I mean, I don't, you know, but not really. I think I was suited to be somebody that assists others, so to speak. You know what I mean? I mean, more from the background than the foreground.
And helps
it just felt like that.
Yeah, and help them perfect that sound. Who did you enjoy working with the most? Is there any standouts for you? That's going to be a tricky
yes,
question.
There are. It's a tough question because there's a really long list of very talented people there, but I would have to say, honestly, that the standout person, I mean, if I had to really get down to it, would be Wayne Shorter. I did a record with Wayne Shorter and Milton Nascimento called Native Dancer in 1976. And we ended up becoming best friends, you know, until he passed away.
Oh,
but I thought he was the most talented person I ever worked with. And it was such an interesting cultural thing, you know, because there were Brazilians. It was Milton Nascimento, and it was really an interesting thing. And I love jazz, you know. I mean, I haven't done a lot of jazz records. I've done a few, but anyway, that would be one. But of course, you know, then, you know, the experiences with Bob Dylan on Planet Waves was remarkable. The doing "U.S. Are Beautiful" with Joe Cocker was another thing that was just, you know, that's really kind of what got me off on the producing end. I was started off that record as an engineer and ended up finishing it as a producer, but that was really my first production. And so, and the Beach Boys too. I mean, you know, Brian Wilson and that whole situation doing Sail on Sailor was really something, you know. So, I mean, it's really hard, you know. There's so many good people.
So
and then
many.
Bonnie Raitt, you know, Bonnie Raitt and I lived together for 5 years, and I produced a couple of her records, and you know, we're still very close. And she's, of course, as you know, remarkable. So
amazing.
anyway, it's pretty hard to narrow it down.
So what do you think you're most successful or the work that you're most proud of is? Because you've won Grammys, you've done so many things. How do you gauge that success and feel proud when you've achieved so much?
Well, I'll tell you, no question about it, The Last Waltz is the crowning achievement. I mean,
yeah, that is good.
It was 18 months of post-production, and I had a major role in the thing, and you know, at the time there was no Pro Tools or anything, so I had to invent ways of doing things that had never been done before. And so, you know, sort of like the Beatles did, because at the time when the Beatles recorded, there were no guitar pedals and all these effects and all the stuff they have today. You know, they had to just dream stuff up, often physically, you know. I mean, like doing physical things in the studio, like drain pipes and, you know, all kinds of crazy stuff. And, excuse me. And so anyway, The Last Waltz by far would be the thing that I guess I'd say I'm most proud of, and it's really amazing.
So many awards for it.
Yeah, it's amazing how it's really aged well.
Yeah. So tell me about your invention, Real Feel.
Yeah, this is a good one. Well, what happened was I had an experience. Myself and a couple other producers and a few engineers went to go to a demonstration of a digital tape recorder called the Soundstream in the early, I think it was April of 1980, and here we were hearing digital recording for the very, very first time, and we were saying, "Wow, you know, low noise floor, lots of clarity, you know, a lot of positives." But the funny thing is that when we left, we all came in separate cars, and we were walking to the parking lot, and one person said, "You know, there's something about that bugs me. I can't figure out what it is, but it really bugs me." And then that got everybody else chiming in saying, "Yeah, I know. There's something about it that I don't like. I can't put my finger on it," right? So anyway, we kind of left it at that. We got in our cars and went our separate ways. And then in 19... it was 1980. So in August, late August or early September of 1980, the Audio Engineering Society convention in New York, this guy named Dr. John Diamond, an Australian psychiatrist, he was doing these studies. He wrote a book called Your Body Doesn't Lie in 1971, I believe, and it was about visual images. It wasn't about sound. But then a couple of years later, he got into that. And so anyway, he was at the AES convention that year, and I went to hear his lecture, and it was the most well-attended lecture I ever was at the AES convention. Usually they're 30% attended, so to speak, but this room was packed, shoulder to shoulder. It was called The Effect of Digital Recording on Living Beings. That was the title of the thing, yeah. And so anyway, the crazy thing was that on the showroom floor at the AES were all the digital multi-track tape recorders that were going to go on sale in January. And the last thing any of these people wanted to hear was somebody coming up with problems about digital, you know, and it caused a major uproar. And Anyway, but the bottom line of it all is, I mean, it's really interesting, but we won't get into too much detail about it. But when I left there that day, I was thinking about that walk to the parking lot, and I was thinking, you know what? We were right. There is something wrong with this, and this kind of proved it, right? Mm-hmm. So then for about 5 years, I was just scratching my head trying to figure out, how to approach this, and I couldn't really come up with anything. And then Dr. Bob Beck, who was the foremost doctor in electromedicine in the world, he told me that there was a direct relationship between fluorescent lights and digital audio, that they had the same effect on the central nervous system. So that gave me something to kind of grab onto. And then I heard my first CD in 1985. At the time, I was vice president of Island Records, and I heard the very first CD of something I had worked on, and it scared the life out of me. I mean, I didn't recognize it. I mean, I could tell it was the mixes that I did, but it didn't feel the same. The emotional part of it was just void. I mean, and it was troubling, I mean, so troubling that I actually was sitting on the couch in tears thinking, now what, now what am I going to do?
Right. And do you think it could have been something to do with the vibration, or what would you think it was that was causing this?
Well, I know what it is because of inventing RealFeel. I mean, basically digital audio is kind of like an emotional roadblock. And so, it has to do with the nature of the way it works, and it's the relationship between the fluorescent lights and the digital audio is the stopping and starting part. So in other words, fluorescent lights are flashing on and off 120 times a second, whereas the audio is thousands of times, tens of thousands, maybe even 1 million times a second. So a lot more chopped up, a lot smaller bits, but the brain does not like that stopping and starting thing. That's really what it boils down to.
That's really interesting. We're nearly out of time. I can't believe it. But there's so many people now creating like self-help apps and different audio to listen to. Could that be having a negative effect when people think they're doing positive things?
Oh, for sure, that's true. I mean, where that really stands out are these, these healing programs. I mean, CDs or whatever, downloads or streams or whatever they are. And, they're purportedly to be helpful in terms of health, meditation, various things like that. But what it turns out is that not only do they not really work, but in fact, they take you 2 steps back instead of 1 step forward, and it's actually better. Silence is better than these things that they're offering people. I mean, that's really a big deal. And I just learned that very recently because I was working with some people that were working on subliminal recordings and binaural recordings and such.
Thank you so much, Rob, for joining us. You've really given us something to think about, and I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much, Rob.
All right, thank you.
In the Driver's Seat is brought to you by the Perfect Cosmetics Company. This is Ticker, and we'll be right back.
You're watching Ticker. We'll have more in just a few minutes.